true lake horror story.
I'm a 16-year-old girl,
Hopefully this is
and this
actually
took
true
place
one.
in July of 2019. Me, my parents, and two sisters were having a family gathering
Yo,
at this
homegirl
lake
at
where
the
we
end of
all
the
used to
table,
go.
like she high as hell, bro.
We hadn't been to this lake in a few years, so I was excited to be going back. Just to give you a general idea of the place, when you first pull into the path to head up to the lake, you have to drive for a few minutes, a very narrow path surrounded by woods. And you come to a fork in the path. One leads to a picnic area and the other leads to the lake.
And y'all hoes went to the lake.
Then you continue up the path to the lake, and after a few more minutes, come across another fork. One side leads to one entrance to the lake, and the other side leads to another entrance that's across the lake.
That's all confusing.
After that, you still have to drive for a few more minutes until you get to the parking area, so it's pretty tedious. We'd already been to the lake for a few hours, and suddenly I got a headache. My mom gave me the car keys so I could go sit in the car with the air conditioning on. I took the keys and started to walk back to the car. The parking lot and the lake area were a little way off apart from each other. As I was approaching our car, I saw a man who was looking through the car windows.
Fuck no,
He was a
bro.
skinny old white man
Take off on
with
him.
shoulder-length gray hair, and he wore old clothes. I stopped walking and asked him, "Sir, what are you doing?" He slowly turned to me, stared at me for a moment,
Hell nah.
and then walked away. I thought it was
Yo,
weird,
get
but
your
I
ass
just
off the
ignored
car,
him that
bro.
he might be just another visitor in this area. And I was totally wrong. I got into the driver's seat and locked the car. I turned the car on and tried to call my mom to tell her about the man, ask if she could send someone to come sit with me. But there wasn't any cell service out at this lake, so the call
What?
never went through. I then looked to the right and saw the old man looking at me through the
How there
passenger
no
side
service?
window.
I could have sworn this girl was on
He
the
was
phone
trying
earlier.
to open the door. I screamed and desperately tried
Run him
calling my
over.
dad and then my aunt, hoping the call would somehow go through. But of course, it didn't. I was freaking out at this point, and I honked the horn at the man, hoping that someone would hear and come see. I was blaring the horn, but there was no one else in the parking area. I was too far away from the lake area, so my family couldn't hear me at all.
Run him over. You can't
The
drive.
man stopped, stared at me, and gave up trying to open the door. And then he stepped back from the car while saying something, but I couldn't hear him. As he disappeared, I got out of the car, locked it, and rushed back to the lake area. When I got there, I slammed the keys on the table and my mom asked me what was wrong. I told her, and as I was talking, I could see that she got angry. She looked at my dad and uncles and told them they needed to come with us back to the car. I started crying and shaking as we were walking back towards the cars. Two of my uncles ran into the woods and my father drove down to the path. As I was crying, I just stood there. My two aunts and grandmother hugged me and told me that everything is okay. Mom looked in the windows of the other cars in the area to see if the man got inside one of the cars, but all the cars were empty. A few minutes later, everyone was back, but they couldn't find that old man. Soon we left the lake, and as we were leaving, we saw a park ranger. We told him everything, and he looked confused. He said that no one didn't go out from this area before us, which meant that man came from the woods in this lake. When I heard of it, I was terrified, but now I'm glad that I'm okay. But I still think about what could have happened to me if the man managed to get inside the car.
Okay, like, what would have happened, bro? He's an old man.
I'm 17 now, but this happened
like
when I
break
was
his hip.
13 years old.
Just cough on him.
My
give him
mom
that
couldn't
corona.
pay for the household on her own since my parents divorced. So she rented one room, and I used to share a room with my mom. I had one older brother, and he was staying with his dad. And that night, I had to sleep around 9 p.m. because I had school the next day. I shared a bed with my mom. She slept on the other side while I slept close to the wall. For most of the nights, I always fell asleep pretty fast and well, but sometimes I had dreams or nightmares since I was little. However, this nightmare was different than any other nightmare I've ever had. I was walking in a room, and I saw an older man standing near the closet. I tried to speak, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I had no choice, so I walked to him. And when I got closer to the man, he suddenly collapsed on the floor, clutching his chest. His eyes were so wide, almost bulged out, and his mouth was also wide open. He looked like he was gasping for air. His body was trembling terribly. I couldn't get much closer to him anymore because I was too scared to see it. His skin color became paler and paler, like his warm color was being sucked away. I only froze and felt my own heartbeat faster than ever before. I felt like my chest was about to burst open in any second. The man was gazing at me, and soon the pupils of his eyes went up slowly. That was the most horrible moment in my life. Then suddenly, I could let my voice out, and when I got up by myself, I saw my mom's worrying face looking at me. I could only let out a sob. I thought everything was fine. Nothing could be more serious than this. But I freaked out when my mom finished the conversation that she had on the phone.
What she heard?
Once she ended the call, she told me it was my older brother and that dad just died from a heart attack.
Oh,
I couldn't believe what my mom was saying. I immediately told my mom about my nightmare. She only stared at me in pure shock, and we both didn't say anything
scary,
while
bro.
we hugged
That's
each
like
other.
Sleep paralysis, but having
That
like some
day,
connection
the
with
only
someone.
thing I could do was pray for him to rest in peace.
Damn. Well, that's it, guys. If you stayed to the end of the video, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. That was part 4. Let me know. Send me creepy horror stories if you want me to review it or not. If you want me to listen to it, I'll be more than gladly to. I ain't got nothing to do. I'm in quarantine anyways. But yeah, guys, thank you. You made it to the end. Love you guys.